Hello, welcome back. Today we'll talk about the third topic. We'll talk about the times the value of the money. So you may say, what's the meaning of the times the value of the money? So actually, this is the foundation for finance. The times the value of the money reflects one simple fact. $1 today is not the same as $1 tomorrow. You may say, is that really true? Theoretically, that is a true statement. Suppose that, if I borrow you, that's the $100 today. I say, after a year, I will pay you back $100. Will you be happy or not? Probably you will not be happy because you're saying, $100 today is worth more than $100 in a year. So that reflects the times the value of the money. If you could have that $100 today, you have the opportunity to invest. So when you invest the money, most likely it will increase the value over time. So that's what we talk about, that's for the times the value of the money. $1 today is not the same as $1 tomorrow. $1 today worth more than $1 tomorrow. When you have this $1 today, you have the opportunity to invest. So you have the chance, maybe this $1 will make some additional money for you, maybe just overnight. That is possible. So that's what we are talking about, the times the value of the money. So here you see, in finance, most of the times we may need to compare the money at the different times. Then how can we compare that? We know $1 today and $1 in a year, they're not the same. Then how can we compare that? So luckily, we have the concept in finance that we have the present value and the future value. So we use these values to describe, how we compare monies at the different times. So here, we will use a simple, graph to show you the times value of the money. Suppose at the time 0, that's the today, and you have some money. So for this money, we'll call it the CF0. So that's the present value. So we may say that is $100 today. That is CF0, present value. And when you allow this money in account or you put the money in your investments, then the value will change over time. So at the end of the first year, we want to record the number. Okay, then we got that one is CF1. So that will be the future value of this $100 at times 1. And when you let the money in that account for another year, then you see the ending value will be a little different. So you record the number CF2. So that indicates that's the future value at times 2. So for a single cash flow here, you see at the beginning, the value we call the present value. But in the future, at any future times, then we have different future values at different times. So here, to you, this $100 today is equivalent to the CF1 at the time 1, or equivalent to the amount of the CF2 at the time 2. So this just set up the standard for you. So if you want to compare the money at different times, then $100 worth this CF1. I may use a simple example. So this one may be $100 today. And at the end of the first period, your account has 105. And at the end of the second year, you may have the 110. So this tells you 100 today is equivalent to that's the $105, that's at the end of the year 1. And it's equivalent to that's the $110 at the end of the year 2. So this one tells you if you want to evaluate the cash flows at the different times, then this one set up the ruler for you to measure how the cash flows can be compared. So we use the present value and the future value. So future value has to associate with the future time. And also, remember, here we put R here. The R is your investment opportunity. For this case, we are assuming that your annual return will be 5%. So the 5% is saying, if you have $100 put in that account, then over the first year, it will generate the $5 return for you. So that's the increase of the value. And when you put the money there for another year, then it will generate additional monies for you. And when you use that the present value and the future value, that will allow you to compare the cash flows from different times. And most of the time, you see that the calculation of the times the value of the money, if you just want to use the mathematical way to calculate, it is very tedious. In finance, luckily, we have the financial calculator. Financial calculator will help us to calculate, when you see the cash flows from different times, then how to convert them into the present value. Or if you know that the present value, future value, and the time, then what's the interest rates you are getting? So the calculation with the financial calculator is very easy. There are several buttons on the financial calculator you need to know. The first one is the future value. FV represents the future value. And the PV represents the present value. And the IY is here we call it the period interest rates. When you calculate the different amount of the payments, then the interest rates has to match to the payment. And the N is the number of the periods, or you can say number of the payments. And the PMT is represents the payments, how we calculate. So most of the times, for these 5 buttons, if we know 4, then we will be able to calculate the rest one. And the next, I will show you how to use a financial calculator to do the calculation. Okay, this time I will show you the financial calculator we are using. So this one is from the Texas Instruments products. We call the BA2 Plus. This is a very popular financial calculator. And you may be wondering how much this one costs. This one is just cost $28. You can buy it from the Walmart. Walmart carry this one. I just checked several days ago. It's only $28. So you can get this one. And usually I mention this one to my undergraduate, finance class students. If you have the financial calculator in this class, then your life will be in heaven. If you don't have the financial calculator, then you will know your life will be in hell, especially for several chapters. So this time I will show you how to use this financial calculator. This financial calculator is amazing. That's because several, the buttons. So this one is the N, we just mentioned, right? So the N is the number of the periods, or you can say number of the payments. And the IY, I say that is the period interest rates. If you are calculating the monthly payment, then this one will be the monthly interest rates. If you are calculating the annual, that's the payments, then this one will be that's the annual interest rates. So make sure your interest rates match your payments. And this one is the PV, that is for the present value. And the payment is payment, PMT is payment. And the FV is for the future value. So anytime when you use your financial calculator, I suggest you to imagine a real transaction. And one way is we need to consider is when you input the cash flow informations, you have to consider the sign of the cash flows. Usually when you have the inflow, then we will use the positive sign to indicate that is in cash flow. If you have that's the out cash flow, then we will use the negative sign, minus sign before the numbers. So that indicates that one is the out cash flow. So anytime when you do a calculation, then you have to make sure the sign of these numbers should be correct. Otherwise, the financial calculator will go on strike. They will just show you the error message there. So when you use the financial calculator, there are several things I need to remind you. The first is, every time when you start with the new calculations, reset your financial calculator. This calculator has a very good memory. He will just remember everything you typed in. If you didn't clear the memory, reset the financial calculator, then next times, all the good things, all the bad things, remembered by him will reappear in your calculations. So you may get some kind of weird numbers. Most of the time, the students may ask me, why I got some very weird numbers? I said, I have no idea. Just reset your financial calculator. So if you got some, weird numbers, first step is try to reset your financial calculator. And the second thing is you may wonder, how to change the display, setting. The default setting of this financial calculator is just show 2 decimal places. But sometimes the calculation may require you to show the more decimal places. So I will show you how to change the setting for that one. Okay, first I will show you how to reset your financial calculator. So you should be able to see that the arrows there, right? So if you want to reset the financial calculator, you find the reset is here. So it is above the buttons. If you want to reach, the functions above the buttons, then usually you have to first push the second shift key. So here, if you want to reset your financial calculator, first step is push the second shift key. Then push this button. So the calculator is asking you, you want to reset? You just answer yes. So the yes here, it should be deciphered as enter. So when you push the enter key, then you see your financial calculator is reset. And another thing is you may want to change the setting, how to display, how many numbers you want to get decimal places. So for that one that is the format. So if you want to change the display format, remember this one is above the buttons, right? If you want to reach there, then you have to first push the shift key. So push the second key first, then push this button. So right now it is saying the decimal. Right now I'm displaying the 2 decimal places. If you want 4 decimal places, then just push the number 4. So, and the next step is remembering the information displayed on the top. It is just to show you what's the possible next step you can get. So if you want to enter the information, just push enter. So when you push the enter, then you see it will display the 4 decimal places for you at this time. So that is how we change the setting. So next I want to show you that the one application, how we use the financial calculator to do the calculation. The first example I give you is a car loan example. Suppose you want to buy a new car, and this car will cost $20,000. And you want to figure out, what's your monthly payment. Then how can we start with that calculation? First, remember, the total value of the car, it will be today you need to borrow is $20,000. So that is the present value. You need to borrow $20,000. Then the next information we need to know is, how long you want to borrow the money. So a typical car loan may be 4 years, right? So here we assume that's the 4 years. So here you want to calculate the monthly payment. So 4 years, how many months in 4 years? So it should be 48 months, right? So the number, the N should be 48 months. And the next part is we need to figure out the interest rates. So what's the interest rates you can get on the car loan? So I may assuming that right now the car loan, the interest rates may be something like the 6%, right? So the 6% is the annual rate, but we are calculating the monthly payment. So we have to change that one into the monthly interest rates. Then next question is, how about the future value on this loan? At the end of the 4th year, what's the outstanding value on this loan? That will be 0, right? So yes, that's true. The future value will be 0. So that is how we do the calculation. Then next I will show you, that's how to do, each steps on your financial calculator. So for this car loan application, today you need to borrow $20,000, right? So how about the direction of the cash flow? That is inflow. So the money flow to you, that's the inflow. So it should be positive $20,000. So first you input $20,000. That's a positive sign here. Then you push the button PV. So that is indicates the present value is $20,000. Then the next information is you need to borrow it for 4 years. And you need to calculate the monthly payment, right? So we need to know how many months is there. So that will be 48 months in 4 years. So we put 48. That's for the value N. And next we need to know the interest rates. I mentioned for your auto loans, the interest rates will be 6%, but that one is annual rate. So here you are doing the monthly calculation. So you need to change that one into the monthly interest rates. So the annual rate is 6%, then divided by 12. So this one will be the monthly rate will be 0.5%. So push N. So here push the IY. So that tells you the monthly interest rates will be 0.5%. So we have input the number of the N and the number of the IY and also the PV. And also we need to mention it to the financial calculator. At the end of the car loans, then the outstanding value of the loan will be 0. So the future value will be 0. Then the next step is we need to do the calculation. You have inputs all the information, but the last step is you need to input the CPT, the computer. So here that's the CPT button. The CPT button is compute. Then you push the payment button. So this one tells you what's your monthly payment. Pay attention to the sign here. It has a negative sign. So this one tells you if you borrow money today, that is in cash flow. So in the future, if you have to complete that transaction, then you have to make your payment to the bank, right? So that will be out cash flows. So that's the reason it has a negative sign there. So for this car loan example, it tells you if you need to borrow $20,000 today, if the loan interest rate is 6%, then for the next 4 years, you need to pay that's the full $69.70 every month. That is how we calculate the auto loans. Another example I want to show you is, how to calculate your mortgage loan. Say, you want to buy a house, and you want to figure out, what's the amount, of the value you can get the house today. So here we assume that we'll do the annual calculation. So suppose that you know your annual payment on the mortgage loans, and the interest rates on the mortgage loans. So you want to figure out how much of the house then you can buy for the housing value. So for here I will assume that you will be able to make that the monthly payment is $1,000 on your mortgage payment, and a year that will translate it into $12,000 a year. So that will be your annual payment. And also right now, if you want to get the mortgage loan, then the mortgage interest rates may be something close to 3.5%, and for the 30 years mortgage loans. So you have that information. You want to borrow the money for the next 30 years, and the mortgage loan interest rate is 3.5%, and your annual payment will be $12,000. The next we want to see, what kind of house will you be able to afford? Okay, when we start the financial calculator, the first step, reset your financial calculator. So push the second key, push the reset button and push enter. So here we reset the financial calculator. Then we want to continue on that mortgage loan calculations, right? So we need to input the information here. For this mortgage loan, you will borrow for the next 30 years, right? So we are calculating the annual payment. So that the number of the payment will be 30 payments. So we assume the annual payment. So for the next 30 years, the 30 payments. And the interest rate, annual rate is 3.5%. 3.5%. And for the annual payment, you can make it as $12,000. That is out cash flow. So this one is for payment. And the future value is 0. So the next step is we just want to calculate, what's the present value. That's the value we can borrow today. So this one tells you $220,705. So this one tells you if you are able to make the payment is $12,000 a year, and you can borrow the 3.5% mortgage loans for the next 30 years, then today you will be able to afford a house. The price is $220,705. So that is how we do the mortgage calculation. So these financial calculators will do exactly the same calculations as your mortgage originators. So have financial calculators. It will not only benefit you in this class, it will also benefit you your future financial affairs, for your life. So that is, that's the topic for today. I will see you next time.